Good evening, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening. Um, this is Stan Kroenke, and you are Mr. 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 Manningsman. You made it, Stan Kroenke. You made it, Manningsman. Are you gonna make it? Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the I Am Sure Sport Manningsman program. And Manningsman, I hate to say this, but I struggle with publicize or putting up your advertising board. So I want you to do that before we commence the program. Why you do that? Because I struggle with this.
Oh. So people.
Yeah. We have to give the sponsors their due because they're the one making this program happen. So why don't you put this up and then we can go
Yeah.
into the program. And we have a very special guest this evening. Really want to have a conversation with her.
Yes, and he's in the background waiting. So let's get through that.
Yes, I can see him. Yes,
We
definitely.
normally have the countdown, people, but of course, Cranky just start. You don't even do the countdown. You just
Yeah.
jump and we just start.
We,
So
we jump right tonight, as I'm saying, Jamaica. We jump right tonight. So my name is
yeah.
man. You do the introduction.
I am sure sports. You know me there. I'm coach to coach representing. I mean, I say this is righteous representing for Omar. You don't know, come get the sports over here from near and far. Boy. Me say I am sure sports, one thing me sure about. When me say sure, that me not doubt. Come get your sports, get it over here. Come subscribe, repost and share. I am sure sports, one thing me sure about. When me say sure, that me not doubt. Come get your sports, get it over here. Come subscribe, repost and share. If me not sure, that me not say it. Know who score, that me not say it. Never know no game play, that me not say it. If me never seen a game, me no know who play. For your sports news, better come over here so. For your soccer news, then come over here so. If you don't love sports, still come over here so. For the day done, you a go love over here so.
So when it comes on to behavior concerning football, Jamaica is decent. I am sure that if we can get all of these things done, set in place by the end of April, it gives us enough time before the World Cup campaign. Not afraid of no Brazil, no Argentina with these crap of players. We are good enough. Remember, like, subscribe, share. Listen, comment, let me know what your thoughts are.
Trick Jerk Marinade gives your meats and vegetables authentic Jamaican jerk flavor. The spices are directly from Jamaica. Spices like jerk seasoning, allspice, Scotch bonnet pepper, fresh scallions, thyme, ginger, and garlic. The key ingredients to a great jerk marinade. 0% sugar and low in sodium. You want to try it?
All right, there you have it, people. Again, as Cranky did before, welcome to the platform, all those who are on as usual. You know how we do things on I Am Sure Sports. We don't break to tell people, hit the like button, subscribe and share. We do it straight up front. If you like the content, you appreciate what we do, go ahead, hit the like button, share the content with someone else, right? We're going to have a very good conversation. At some point, we will take your comments. Not sure that we'll be able to facilitate phone calls. But we will try our best to do that. As you can see, my co-moderator today is none other than the man whose team had a fantastic victory today. The Arsenal, they won by 2-1 over the the lowly Nottingham Forest. But we give thanks for every victory. Leon Bailey did well. A lot of the Jamaicans did well. Casey Palmer did well. Lati Bodir did well. Amari Bell suffered loss in his first game in the Premier League, but we will do that at some other point because we have the very astute General Secretary of the Jamaica Football Federation, a man who is no stranger to these platforms or to media. A cyclist and a financier by trade, but he serves as General Secretary, and so. Indeed, we're going to invite Mr. Dennis Strong, and he's going to help to bring some clarity and paint a picture, I think, of us about how things will be done, marketing. Cranky will be fielding questions as well. So without any further ado, let us welcome to the show, Mr. Dennis Chung. How you doing, sir?
Yeah, man. How you doing, Mannix, man?
Every day, you know,
Your
you
co-host,
yeah.
So I thought management was gonna say a man who is getting to be very proficient at putting out fires. But go ahead, management. You're reading off his
I was trying
credentials.
to say I feel out of place. I feel out of place, you know. Right now because both of you have no hair on your head and I have hair, so I feel out of
It sounds like you have a personal problem. We can't help you with that.
yeah. But Mr. Chung, hearing some gibberish in I don't know what is happening, like some creatures have got into the line over there. I don't know
Some
if
peely water thing.
yeah, there's some
in my line.
yeah,
Yes,
I
I think
think
it's your line.
I
or
don't
is
know
it
what that is, because I'm hearing you very, very well.
cranky? Let me all right, go ahead now, Mr. Chung.
Yeah, man. I'm hearing you very, very well.
I think it is cranky, you know. Are you muted now, cranky?
If I'm
You're muted.
but if I'm muted, how you hearing me? Because I was testing, I'll change my headset.
Yeah. I think it is in over there, cranky. How are you doing, Mr. Chung?
I'm good. I just, as my usual weekend mode is to do my cycling, do some work, relax a little bit, and I have a new thing now. I got an electric motorbike, so I ride it sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where do you charge that? Suppose you ride on the road and
I'm gonna charge at home. It can charge from a regular plug.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Charge.
interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I thought only Teslas were in Jamaica.
No, man, no. No.
All right. Yeah, but let me see, cranky.
I'm
We getting
still
it.
I'm still getting the sound of management. I'm still getting the sound. I'm not sure
There
what's
is some
happening.
feedback. I don't know if you're listening to the show and stuff. You want me to send? You want to join by the link and see if that will.
No. Is
Are
this it?
you want to sign out and sign back in and see if it makes a difference? I don't know what is
Yeah,
going on.
let me do that. Let me do that.
Yeah, man. So in the meantime, Mr. Chung, it has been a very, very hectic summer for the JFF
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you. I mean, from the Gold Cup to the Women's World Cup to the CAC Games, the U15 tournament, and
Yeah.
even we have the Under-17 Women's Tournament, which is going to be held in Jamaica. Talk to us
Yeah.
about.
Well. Don't forget also, before the Gold Cup, you had the boys going to Austria. You had the
Right.
girls in Amsterdam. You had the girls in Jamaica. So it has been a very, very, very busy time. A lot of logistics behind the scene. As you said, we had the under 15 boys are now in the Dom Rep playing for third place. Before that, 4 days before that, they were in Trinidad for a camp. We have the under 17 group that we're going to be hosting here for the girls. So I think we have a title sponsor for that now. That has been confirmed. We also have the under 14 girls who are going to Antigua, right? And then come next month, it doesn't stop. We have 3 home games next month and 1 away game. 2 senior men's is going to be at the stadium, and we have the women's is going to be at the stadium also on September 22nd in the World Cup, their Olympic qualifier, sorry, and then they go away to Canada on the 26th. So there's a lot happening. In addition to that, I mean, people tend to focus just on the football. But we deal with the referees also. We just had some people from FIFA here for a session with the referees, a 3-day session. And also we have been selected by FIFA to host an international coaching training seminar here in Jamaica. So it's a lot of things happening in the background, a lot of things.
Okay, any details on that coaching seminar yet, or you're not sure of the details?
No, no details as yet. It's going to be about September. What we have done, they've sent to us and asked us if we're willing to do it. We are confirmed with them just this week. It was supposed to be by August 15th, so we've confirmed with them before that that we would accept it. So we're going ahead with that. That's going to see people coming from all over the Caribbean for that coaching session. So as I say, it's a lot of moving parts, a lot of things happening in the background. At the same time, you have your local leagues also that we have to deal with. And PFGL has been doing a very good job with the Premier League. We have the Tier 2 competition that's going to start soon again also. So it's a whole lot, and you, I mean, now that you have seen management, you realize the logistics that goes into even one trip, multiply that by the number of things that we have to do. And, you see the amount of moving parts we have to deal with.
Yeah. Are you aware that there is a big concert though before the Reggae Boys' first game, and then on the 18th, I understand that there's going to be a major political party hosting something at Independence Park as well.
Yeah.
I mean, how are you planning on working those things out?
Well, I mean, we're assured that the field will be ready because we did have discussions on that. In fact, the under 17 girls is going to be, the group is going to be played at Sabina Park because, as you know, the stadium is going to have the Chris Brown concert there at that time.
Yeah.
I'm a little, from my position when I speak to people who are sports people, we really need to dedicate our sporting facilities to sporting events, primarily. But, it's going to happen there. That was booked. So we're going to have it at Sabina Park. One of the things, as you know, Manningsman, is we just, as a country that does so well with football and cricket and that sort of thing, we don't have enough playing facilities that are of international standard. As Coach Hallgrimson said recently, if Messi came here in 2 weeks, he would be ordinary because we just don't have the infrastructure, the fields, and it's a shame. We really need to, as a country, invest. I know Montego Bay is actually doing some work. They're supposed to finish in August, the work that they have done on the Catherine Hall complex. But, as a country that is into tourism, because sports tourism can be huge if we had facilities, we really need to invest in those things, and get proper facilities in place, not just for the international level, but for development purposes also. When clubs are playing, we need to have the proper infrastructure. One of the challenges we have with clubs, for example, is that a club will have maybe 2 or 3 teams on one pitch. It gets no time to rest, so it's a little challenging. I mean, we are working on getting our grass field up by the center up to better scratch. And it has come a far way, I must tell you. It can be played on now. We have the turf field also that's there. And we've been playing like a lot of the women's Premier League matches up there and that sort of thing. But as a country, we need to invest in this if we want to see the sport move forward.
I mean,
Dennis, we're gonna get to we're gonna get to funding. I'm still getting feedback. I'm not sure if it must be me. Can I open my line, management? I'm getting the feedback. We're gonna get to the whole thing about funding and how we generate resources and funding to support our football program. But I want to dial back to more recently, whether it's the under 15, the Gold Cup, and the more just concluded, at least for us anyway, Women's World Cup.
Mm-hmm.
We all should be happy and really celebrating the accomplishments of the women's football program and what they have achieved more recently. But we have also had some drama. I'm gonna call it my own terms, Dennis. Drama associated with this,
Yeah.
whereby we heard in the public domain the narrative that the women's team had to run GoFundMe program to allow them to fund or get them to the World Cup and pay for their expenses. So what the audience would like to know, and we've talked about this in different formats, is can you provide details as to how the World Cup campaign was funded, including source of revenues and expenses?
Yeah, well, we did put something out. In fact, we spent, since I've been there since about October, November last year, the JFF has spent about $2 million between what we've got from FIFA. FIFA would have given us over 75% of that. And, between sponsors, corporate sponsors, the government, Adidas, right, which is a huge sponsor. And that's primarily where the funding has come from. So, it's a little disturbing that people could believe that 50,000 US could take us to the World Cup.
I don't know if it's a but he didn't mention Fidel Marley and the
Listen, man. How can I forget the Bob Marley Foundation and Sidela? Sidela has been, really, really very supportive, not just from a funding point of view, but logistics, in terms of assisting with logistics, particularly at the UK camp and also at Amsterdam, and the Reggae Girls Foundation, who we did get a small amount from, but that's still a good amount. Certainly those two would have contributed to us. So that's primarily where the funding come from. We haven't had any other funding source, and we have paid for that $2 million US, everything, right? Travel costs. I spoke to, for example, the costs from Amsterdam to Australia. That alone was 369,000 US just to fly to Australia, right? And you're not talking about accommodation yet. You're talking about baggage, but we have to pay for a whole lot of money for baggage. Per diem, any miscellaneous, petty cash, snacks, all of those things, all of those things we do pay for. And it has put us under a lot of pressure, but thanks to places like FIFA and, as I said, the corporate sponsors who came on, a lot of them came on at the last minute to assist us. Mm-hmm. And you've had some stalwarts who have been there for a little while, like Wisinko, the SDF and Stewart's. Wisinko in particular, whenever you call on William Mahfood, he is there, through thick and thin. But that's where the money has come from. It hasn't come from any other source, despite what is said. And I don't think anyone in their right mind, even if you don't have financial knowledge, could assume, in any way that is how we could get to a World Cup. I mean, and the reason why we had to say it, Manningsman and Cranky, is because, it was a little disconcerting to the persons who have contributed to not be given the credit in those statements, because you can imagine if you put out a lot of money, and then you hear that, people are saying this, and that's why we had to come out and say, and in addition to that, and you will know, Manningsman, because of the amount of things that we need to do. So getting money from FIFA, for example, is not just FIFA saying, hey, this is money. We have to apply for those funds. There's a lot of work that goes on behind it. So the secretariat staff put in a lot of hours just to ensure that we have the funding. Even when sometimes we see that, boy, there's just no money. And the staff say, well, listen, this is how we can deal with it. These are the people we can approach. And some people like KFC, they just, log on and assist the effort. You can't, KFC, they were really big. William Mahfood with Cinco, Sagicor, Grace Kennedy with helping us with the groceries, Supreme Ventures, IRFM, Courts, all these places who just came. And I used to recently, I mean, we just don't look at sponsorship in terms of money also. You have seen that Sherwin Williams has just come on and say, hey, we'll give you all the paint to paint the center. You're talking about a lot of money in terms of paint, to paint that center, which is starting next week. And the Curves, who came on and said, listen, we recognize that the needs for girls, in particular, not just the senior women's team, but the young girls, they need sanitary products. And they came on and gave all of that. And we appreciate all of that. And that's why we had to come out. It's not that we think that any initiative, right, even that GoFundMe we thought was a good thing, but we always have to ensure that we make sure that anyone who sponsors us, because we're not going to just take money like that, has to follow the process, and we know how money is accounted for and accountable, because we have the reputation of JFF to protect and our sponsors. Because if anything negative about the JFF affects the people who actually contribute to us also, so we have to protect those reputation, and that's the only reason why we came out and said anything, to be honest with you.
Because the truth is, so I listened to Miss Sandra Phillips. I listened to Miss Sandra Phillips on Beyond the Headline, and she said she wanted to have dialogue with you. I think Miss Deanne Jackson Miller said she gonna arrange that, because she did say at no time did she assert that the funds that she had was used for any of those purposes. She said what she did, she had to give the girls money while they were on the trip. And one of the things that she said, and the clip is there, is that only $550 was given to the girls per diem for the 6 weeks, for the entire 6 weeks from the JFF. So that is where her funds came in, because in total, I think, based on what she said, she gave them $1,300 and $500 at some point. She gave them, the girls, a total of like $1,800 each, and then some staff members that she helped with some of those funds. So really what she said is that it was really like a per diem, because the JFF did not give enough per diem. Because up to the time when she checked, she said it was only $550 in total that they had received from the JFF. I don't know if anybody else gave them, but that is what she said the JFF was given. And so her fund for you. Go ahead.
I can't speak to the amount. What I know is that all the per diem that is due under contract, right, up to that point for Amsterdam was paid. Right. So we pay based on what the contractual agreement is. Because remember, we actually pay for the food, meals, everything. Right? All expenses we pick up. Right? So we provide meals, accommodation, any, as I said, snacks, because it's important to provide the snacks, anything, we provide it. So the per diem is like additional personal things, right? And we have a contractual amount. The amount that we provide is actually written in a contract, right? In fact, we would have paid most of the Australian per diem also up until this week. Would have paid most of that already, right? And the truth is that we have no issue with anyone providing additional funds to any of our players, but it must be done in a certain way, Manningsman and Cranky, because remember also that, if people come to us, we will say to them, well, can you give the money to the JFF and then we will pay it out? And there's a reason for that. There's ethical guidelines from FIFA, for example. So FIFA doesn't like when third parties give money directly to players or staff, because then you're talking about match fixing allegations that can be made, right? And therefore, anyone that says they want to give money to players, we will say to them first, all right, give it to us and then we will send it. We can always acknowledge that this person did it, but the protocol is important. And that's why we had to come out and say it, because we are very aware that, FIFA could say to us, how did you allow something like that? Right? the other thing and the other consideration why we always ask that it be done like that, right? Is that in Australia, for example, the players are subject to withholding tax, not only on their prize money, but also on anything, any payment that they get, including per diem, right? So we had to make it very clear that the JFF is not a party to that, because we don't want anyone coming back to us and say, what is happening with that? Right. And that's another reason why we had to say that. So we don't have no problem. If someone wants to give money directly to someone, or even if someone wants to say, listen, I want this specific person to get it, that's no issue. But it is important that we as JFF make sure that the protocol is followed, because this can also have an implication for the players themselves. And also when you talk about staff also, it can have an implication for the staff. And as I said to them, if money was paid to the staff for baggage and we also pay the baggage, somebody's double dipping, So that is the reason why we said that, But I mean, I would welcome 1 million GoFundMes, right? But we have to make sure from a JFF point of view that we can ensure the accountability. How are the funds being accounted for? We need to know what the objectives are, so that when we go to people and say, we support this, and Manning's man has set up a GoFundMe and he says it's going to be used to buy a chair. We need to ensure that we understand those objectives. So when that money comes in, we buy a chair, right? So we have to have some way of tracking that. And that is why we had to issue those statements.
All right. All right. All right, Cranky, let me just take this and then you come on. So let me go back, because what you said is that up to Amsterdam, all the per diem was paid. I don't know, because I don't know if you're at liberty to disclose like what's the per diem. Maybe you're not, because of contractual arrangement.
Yeah.
But are you also saying then, since Amsterdam, the rest of the per diem has not been paid, which would mean that is why she had to give them the monies that she had?
Since Amsterdam, as I said, up to this week, we have paid most of the Australia per diem.
Okay.
Right.
But was it paid while they were in Australia? Was it paid prior, before, during?
While they were, well, the first set, we made 2 payments. The first set, which was most of it, was paid while they were in Australia. And then we paid the others while they were traveling back, the rest of it.
So in terms of transparency, did we inform the girls that there's withholding tax associated with any money that was provided to them? So therefore,
yes. So FIFA would have sent it to us, and then we would have sent it to the manager and said, and the delegation was there and said, please inform the girls of this as soon as it came to us.
But Dennis, wouldn't it have made sense to give the girls the money before they got to Australia? I assume that when you're on their shores, or maybe in their airspace, that's where the withholding comes into effect. Wouldn't we have give the money so they can actually pay for incidentals while they're on national duty, and then if anything's left over, they get paid it when they return?
When you say incidentals, like what?
So if you're away, you want to buy a bulla, you want to buy a bun, you want to pay for your lunch, whatever that may entail. Right?
Yeah, all of those things. All of those things.
Cover off your meat.
No, all of those things we pay for.
Okay.
Yeah. We pay for all of that.
So what was the narrative then? Because I don't want to call names, but one person was on with a well-known footballer and expressed this, the view that
Cranky. The feedback is
all right.
Yeah, man. I don't know what you're going to do. I sent you the link by phone. You want to do that? I'm wondering if because you came into try the link by the phone and see if it make a difference, and then come back on. Because you see the people send the feedback. Because I think Cranky has a question. But what I want to find out, Mr. Trump. So let's So the per diem standard, it is again it would be what was arranged in the contract. And I guess it's a standard per diem. Is that something that is public knowledge? Like the National Association play to senior teams, male and female, this per diem for players? Or that is
No,
something that
it's in the contract, and we don't. As you know, I don't speak about things that are in players' contracts or employees' contracts, but it is in the contract in terms of what it is. And you know what Cranky was asking is if we could pay it before. Of course, you know, and sometimes when we have the funding available, we do pay it before, right? Um, Sometimes, you know, the problem with JFF, you know, when I came there, there was problem in from last year and reimbursements from last year, right? And we paid that up. What we try to do now is pay it at least, you know, immediately after it's finished, because it has been, funding has been an issue, and the president has actually stated publicly, because there are some match fees that's outstanding to them from last year, right? And he has said, listen, when we get the prize money, all of those things will be liquidated, and that's just a reality. You know, we're not going to hide from that. That's a reality that JFF faces. Jamaica is a poor country. You know, it's a very poor country. And we just have certain realities that we need to deal with. And, you know, I am proud of my staff that has gone out there and got funds for this very, very busy period. You know, and I think that we have done fairly well to ensure that we're at least, you know, significantly up to date with a lot of the payments, not to mention the legacy payments in terms of vendors also. Because remember, when a team is in camp or goes away, the cost is not just the players' cost, you know, that's sometimes that's minimal, right? The cost is the cost for the organization, the vendors, you know, the accommodation. If we don't have those things, then there's not going to be any camp. You know what I mean? So, I mean, we are the first to admit that we've had issues. I mean, it's just recently, Manningsman, that we're seeing actually more sponsors coming on board, right? And we actually have about 2 or 3 lined up now, which we will announce in the coming week. And we're happy for it. You know, we're happy that more and more people are coming on. Of course, you know, we'd have, you know, some of it is not cash and it's not big amounts, but you know, anything that we're able to get, we actually have 3 sponsors lined up now. 3, yeah, we have about 3 or 4 lined up right now, 3 or 4, and we've concluded about 3 of them already, and we're trying to tie up the agreement with 1 right now. And you know, we're grateful, and you know, what I encourage also, you know, when you know, we tend to many times say, boy, you know, we need to find the funding and thing, and I encourage management, because this has been a poor thing in the past. When we have the matches in September, everybody just buy a ticket and come. You understand?
Yeah, that is important. But one of the things I see this going in the comment section, and I think I need to just help you to clarify, because you said whatever the per diem is, it's contractual and it is agreed upon with you and the players. All right. I think one person wants to know if it is, I think their question, is it sufficient? But because it's contractual is what they would have agreed to, whether it's sufficient or not. But you can answer that. But the bigger question is, given that Miss Sandra Phillips, and I just want you to kind of give your take on it, and we can move on from there, because what you're saying is that nothing is wrong with GoFundMe, and what she did was important, but there could have been a better way of how the funds were dispersed, so that there's a greater level of accountability, and there would not have been this misunderstanding. No, since that time, has there been any dialogue between you and her? Because it you know, I think her actions have taken a hit, and when she speaks, it creates a negative narrative where the JFF has to kind of clarify stuff. So my question is, has there been a conversation between you and her to kind of say, listen, next time, great job. Next time, this is a better way of doing it because what you did, there is a space for that.
That that the conversation didn't happen like that. The last correspondence was when I sent one on. Well, the initial thing was May, right? And I said, listen, I would certainly support this. However, we need to have an accounting for how the funds are going to be done, and also it needs to be launched with the JFF. I specifically said that, and I would have said that any use of any image must be approved by the JFF, right? And then it was launched, and when we had to issue the statement to say that we are not associated with because of those things, right? And then I would have sent an email after the launch to say, well, what happened is that when we issued the statement to say we are not associated, someone from her organization would have sent to me and said, oh, this is an update on what's happening. And I was surprised about this thing about update because I never agree anything, right? And I would have sent back an email on the 28th of June and said, listen, this initiative is a good initiative, but I cannot sanction it from the JFF because I need to know how the funds are being accounted for. As I indicated, any images used must be sanctioned by the JFF, right? The objectives we need to be very clear on, right? And as I also said, it must be launched with the JFF, right? And those are the things. And why it is important for us to approve the images also, man, is because we have a contract, for example, with Adidas. If things are put up with the old brand that was there, we get a call from Adidas. And that's why we have to ensure that any images are approved, right? So my driver, for example, was going to pick up the girls in Montego Bay on Thursday. And he had on one of the old shirts, and I had to take out an Adidas shirt and give it to him because we can't have him in the JFF bus wearing another brand, right? And those are things we have to be very, very careful of because we can breach the contract and lose the Adidas contract. So those things, that was the last correspondence I had. And I said, listen, come and talk to us. And once we meet these conditions, we're fine. And I did put out that invitation in that June 28th email. And therefore, anybody who wants to come and talk to us and be a part of it, sure, we'll do it, and it's a great initiative she did, but I have to make sure that it follows the protocol because I have the reputation of JFF, the reputation of sponsors, the reputation of my board and my executive and myself to protect, right? Because, we have to make sure, man, you know how the whole thing with banking and all of that going on. We have to make sure that we know how the funds are coming in and how the funds are being spent, so that when someone, as I said, right, if we put up and say we're going to paint the wall blue, we can't paint it red. When you take people money, we have to make sure. So we have to make sure that those things are done, and that's all we're saying. So anyone can come in and talk to us. I have no problem with them, but come in and talk to us and let us get these things clear so that when we sanction something as a JFF, we can let the fans be rest assured that whatever we say we're going to do with those funds, it is done.
All right, so that's good because I think she has said this that she would want to sit down with you, and I know that probably Miss Diane Jackson Miller is going to reach out to you because I think it is important, given all that you just said, that it's a good initiative that there kind of be some sort of dialogue. But no, because one of the other key things is that there's a plan in place once you get the prize money that all the back monies owed to the girls, as best as possible, will be paid over to them. Is there a timeline where the prize money comes in 6 months' time, 2 months' time, 3 months' time, where they are made aware of that don't, so they know within what window, and constant dialogue with them to say, do not expect to see the funds until November to January, because by the time FIFA does their processing, it comes through CONCACAF, it hits our account, our processing, it's going to take 3 to 4 months. So they are not coming out next month saying, we have not received, right? And you have to come out and make a statement and say, we have not gotten it yet, right? Is there clear timeline given to the players in writing so they know, and I'm talking about male and female, so they know that whatever monies are going to come in to pay them will not come in until 2 months after the competition, 3 months after the competition, and then there's the internal processing of the federation that will put it off a little bit. How is that addressed? And is that important to be made clear to the players and staff within the national teams and setup?
Yeah, so I mean, it's funny you raised that, Manixman, because I did have a discussion this morning with the president about it, and a director. We actually are, and we started from last week preparing some statements, right, that we're going to issue to all of the players and say, listen, this is the outstanding amounts, from long time. This is how it's going to be settled, right? And in terms of when we are going to get the money from FIFA and CONCACAF for the Gold Cup, right? We are finalizing those details. I am actually going to Australia with the president on Tuesday for FIFA Congress, and we're going to clarify all of those things with them and get some specific answers so that we can say to the girls, listen, this is when the thing is coming. And I guarantee you, I mean, if we can get the funds paid directly to them, the prize money, after that Congress, we're going to say, okay, this is what you need to do. FIFA can do the withholding of the taxes and everything, but taxes have to be withheld. If the funds come to us, we're going to have to withhold the tax and pay it over to the Australian authorities. If it goes from FIFA will withhold the tax and pay it over. The discussion is that, some people say, why not just let it come here? Either way, it don't matter, because I can guarantee you that if we get the money, once we get it, then we will process it within a week and send it off to them. In terms of the timeline, we're going to firm that up at Congress. And also the money that's coming in for the Gold Cup, right? Because we came third. We also will pay that over in terms of the debts that's outstanding to the boys also, right? And I'm not going to hold up any payment, right? The boys would have earned the money from the Gold Cup and therefore will use it to liquidate any debt to them. The girls would have earned the money from the World Cup and we will use that to liquidate it to them, right? So that commitment has been made and we will ensure that it happens in very, very quick order. So within a week of receiving the funds, I can say we can do that. That's not a problem, but we just have to establish the timelines with CONCACAF and FIFA.
All right, great response. No, I'm glad that you said that. No, Mr. Speed was on a couple of weeks ago and he spoke about he said 70% of the monies. He was given an approximate figure. 70% of the monies from the World Cup. This is separate and apart because there's a part of the payment that goes directly to the players at the World Cup. I think FIFA is going to give each player some money, and then the MAs across the world for the teams at the World Cup, they get monies, and out of that they are supposed to compensate their players based on their contractual arrangement. He said like 70% of that is really to the girls, which would include what you have said, some of the back payments and all of those things and staff and things. No, I'm asking that because if there is a profit, what is the what is it for debt payment that the JFF has? Is it to reinvest in local women's football? I mean, what can people expect to see happen with resources if there is any profit? Because you have to consider all the close to $3 million that you spend to qualify. What is in the JFF mind in terms of what should we do with say $1 million extra US that we have in terms of profit? Is it for female football development, or is it just for football development, or does it go to directly to the female uh, side of the game, or is it, listen, we have to deal with the debt that we have. I think the last time we paid like $50 million on that debt that we had for some time. Does some of it go to that? Is it to build what will those resources be used for that would make the girls say, well, see, they paid us and they have reinvested the money in X, Y, and Z?
Yeah, well, management, I hear people talk about those things, but the truth is that I can't, well, number one, I don't know what percentage of the prize money is going to go to liquidating debts and everything, right? That, I mean, I can't, I'm conservative when it comes to estimating those things without the knowledge of the facts. But what I would say is that it is enough, it should be enough to liquidate the debts that we have for them based on the accounting that we have internally. In terms of how the funds are going to be used, we have a strategic plan. There are various things that we need to do. I'm not going to say that, right now, because things can change, that this money is going to go here. And how do you trace that? We have 10 objectives to do, right? What we have to do is those 10 objectives, and we have to find the sources of funding for those 10 objectives. I hear this argument, people say, well, the money came from the girls or the money came from the boys, so it shouldn't be used for different genders. That's crap as far as I'm concerned. When the girls' leagues were being started, right, where the money came from? Would it come from the girls who didn't exist before? No, it came from the men, right? And what we need to do, we have a strategic plan, right? Money is fungible, right? What we need to do is look at the various sources of income. So, for example, we are fixing up the Captain Horace Burrell Center, right? If we have a surplus there at the center, should we say that this money should not be used on funding any women's Premier League team? Right? We can't do that. Or if we get money from sponsorship, right? Should we say it should not be used for youth? Right? We can't do that. There are certain things, certain projects that we apply for funding from FIFA. And based on what we apply for, or if a sponsor comes and says, listen, I want these monies to be spent specifically here, then we have nothing, choice but to do it. But when money comes into the federation, what we have to do is look at the strategic objectives that we have, right? What are the things that we think will have the greatest impact? So if I, for example, say, listen, I am not going to pay my debtors, right? Or my creditors, right? Then if I don't pay my creditors, you know what happens? They can shut down everything. Right? So I can't take that approach. I have to do it based on the expediency of keeping the strategic plans going and also the operations. And that's how I have to deal with it. I can't come out and make a commitment that, I'm not going to spend money here when, money might be needed there. I mean, suppose I need to spend money to pay my staff. What I do? Don't pay my staff? Then you won't have an operations.
All right, makes sense. I see Cranky is back, but here this question that I want to ask is that does the JFF, or can the JFF find enough money to fund all its programs? Because this question is very specific. It says, what is the financial position of the JFF, and do we have the funding to sufficiently support the various teams across different age group for the various upcoming tournaments? Because you have the Olympic tournament coming up, you have, like I said, you have the under 17 coming up, you have the girls under 14, you have Nations League coming up, all of these things. Does the JFF have enough money, or are you um, raising enough money through sponsorship to be able to do this, or it's a reliance on the provision of FIFA to sustain these programs?
No, well, FIFA and CONCACAF are big sponsors, right? And they do provide funding for all the competitions that they put on. It's not 100%, and therefore what we go and I spoke to you about 3 sponsors, for example, that we're closing down, possibly 4. So what it is that just like any other company, a company has a certain amount of expenses they need to cover in going after objectives, and they have to raise the money by selling products, right? Our product is our brand, right? And we have to monetize that, right? And therefore, we don't know 100% of where the money is coming from. But if we do what we're supposed to do in terms of promoting the brand, in terms of ensuring that there's transparency, and we can go to sponsors and say, can you assist us with this? Or we might go to places like the Bob Marley Foundation. Sidela has come through many times for us, right? Or the ministry, right? So our job is to find the funds wherever they are and ensure that the programs continue. And so far, we have been doing that. One of the challenges we've had is that we've had this legacy debt that we're trying to deal with, and we've paid down quite a bit of it, right? But we still have this legacy debt, and that's really what's killing us, right? And the truth is that some of those debts we can't use with project funding that we get now. We can't, liquidate with project funding we get now, right? But that's why I say, one of the things when this whole thing came out, the argument from the international press about how we had to seek funding, one of the set of people who were disheartened by it is the staff, because they came to me and said, boy, Mr. Chung, after we're working so hard to get this is what people are saying about us, that we're not relevant. And that's why those are some of the logistics I have to deal, because as I said, management, sometimes 9, 10 o'clock at night, people are there, on weekends trying to get the money, the staff, and they really felt put off by the fact that the international press were discounting their efforts. And Jamaicans were discounting their efforts after all they did. And the truth is that we don't pay them the amount of money they're really supposed to get paid, because, we can't afford it in many respects, but they put in a lot of work.
So hold on, that's cranky. Hold on, cranky. Don't move your point, because I get in some. When you come on the program, I have some people, who study some of these things. Listen to this one. It's a tax matter. Assuming that the players do get paid by their association as promised, players are generally subject to tax according to the laws of their own country and the host country. Taxation in the host country or countries is typically limited to prize money and other compensation paid for cup participation. All right. So the per diems are not taxable then, based on
Yeah.
this.
So the literature that I got specifically use per diem as an example. Tax laws vary in countries, and with all tax returns, you declare everything, right? So it's not that it's going to be taxable, but you have to declare it, right? And that's how taxes in any country. Once you're filing taxes, you have to declare everything, right?
Okay.
And then that determination is made by the tax authorities.
And this is about, because I think you said you're going to the FIFA Congress, but this is saying the 73rd FIFA Congress was held in BK Arena in Kigali, Rwanda on the 16th of March, 2023. So I think you're saying you're going to the FIFA Congress on Tuesday, but it's not actually a FIFA Congress, because the Congress
Well, it's not the full Congress, but they do have meetings at these World Cups.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's something connected to the World Cup. Okay,
Yeah,
go ahead.
yeah.
Clarify those two things because I got some information. Go ahead, Cranky. You're muted.
I was so busy trying to get a new computer to come on. I had heard nothing that you said before, so I may be duplicating questions. I want to take a step back, Alika. Dennis mentioned legacy debt. I don't want to insult anyone intelligent, but what he's talking about is they have past money that they owed, which they need to satisfy, right? That's legacy debt. The question about the legacy, Dennis, is you can have legacy debt, and you're paying it down and still satisfy your current obligations, correct? Go ahead. Sorry, I think you mute for a while ago.
Yeah. I'm saying which is what we've been doing.
Okay. Now we can understand why a player may have a view of certain things when they may not have a view of the entire picture. May not be informed as you'd like them to be to understand the totality of the entire picture. So the narrative that's been exposed in the general public is that the JFF has not done a good job of supporting the players and paying for their expenses. So here's the question for you. Are you going to come out with a much more comprehensive way of articulating to the general public the revenues you generate, the expenses you incur, and it's on paper written? Now you're going to say, Cranky, we can't do that because it got to be audited. You can put a caveat to say, these are not audited financials. These are expenses that we have incurred and revenue generated. Here are the numbers. Just in general, they have not been authenticated by some independent auditor. So anyone can optically see what the numbers are and clearly see, and I know don't have the GoFundMe numbers, what amount of expenses may be funded by GoFundMe, if any, what the different sources of revenues are, whether it's FIFA, Marley Foundation, sponsorship. You have a listing of what those is. Basic financials that says, here's my revenues, here's the line item for each, here are my expenses, and some are going to be summarized, maybe including incidental. Here's the net number, and it shows what the girls got paid. You're going to do anything like that? Because until you do so, people are still going to be skeptical.
Yeah, I'll tell you something. People are going to be skeptical anyway, right? And so, I'm not too put off by that because I know there are some people out there, as is said, you just can't convince them otherwise, right? And the truth is that it's funny that you asked me that, Cranky, because when the situation did occur with the GoFundMe, we did put out the amount of money that we got in terms of revenue out of that $2 million from the various sources. It was put out, and the government did come out and speak about it also from their point of view. So it's not that the information wasn't put out. It's just that people just never take the time to educate themselves on what has been put out. Number one. Number two is that we put out at the end of each year, after Congress has approved it, our annual audited accounts. Right? So information is out there.
Dennis, I'm going to take Dennis. I had to cut you, but Dennis, your financial statements are dated. They're so late they become useless.
Yeah, but also every time we announce a sponsor, we announce what the sponsor carries, right? And I don't think that we now need to put out financials every month for the public. No, right? We are running the institution, right? And we at the end of each year, which is what an audit is supposed to do, right? It says to you that, listen, the auditors have audited this thing, right? And this is what the situation is. If the persons don't trust JFF, even if I put out the numbers, they're still not going to trust it. So the auditors put it out, and the auditors say, we have audited it and provides a true and fair view. And as I said, when we announce sponsors, we announce what the sponsors come with. And as I said also, when the situation came up about that $2 million, we did say what the funding source was. Just like I said a while ago, that 75% of that funding came from FIFA, of that 2 million. So if you do the math on it, you'll see that 75% is 1.5 million.
Dennis, I know what you're saying, Dennis, but let me just say this. when people buy stocks, Dennis, our stocks move based on earnings, right? Which are not audited. I say my EPS is $10 and it went to $12. They buy stocks based on it, and it's not audited. Dated information is useless information. If you give me something a year after it's being done, I don't really care about it. Here's another thing, Dennis. You're on mute, Dennis. You're on mute.
Yeah, but Cranky, people get information on stocks because they buy stocks. What is it? What if I come up with the information now during the year? What is it? The use of it? Because people,
but I'm saying if you give me timely information, Dennis, timely information.
Yeah, but what are you gonna use that timely information for?
So in this case, it's about the JFF trying to articulate to the public or try to negate the negative publicity that you have just received, or trying to provide clarity and transparency about your financial activities.
I don't have to put out financial information for that.
No, but you verbalize it, but when you verbalize something, it's different from it being on paper. I can sit down, review it, assess it, think about it, versus you give me something verbal and say discount it.
No, we provide, whenever there's an issue, we always provide a statement written to the public on it.
Okay.
Right, which we think is appropriate.
Yeah, I think what Cranky is saying is this. I don't know if it can work because this is what I do. So I have a club, right? And whenever so the season is not long. So this season is around 3 months. So what I do is that in that 3 months time, I have all the income streams,
yeah,
the amounts, right? Because I have the persons who contribute to the club. I give them that so that they can see that they're not the only one. And I also show them how all the money was spent. Because in my mind, if I do that, by the time I get to the competition again, I can go back to them because I have shown them all the figures for that particular competition.
So Mannings man, who do you provide that information to?
To the persons who give me the funds.
Exactly. And I provide my financials every month to my board of directors, and if sponsors ask for information, I give it to them.
But the thing is that you're a more public body than the club that I run, because the club that I run is more private. So I don't need to give it to I don't need to present it to all of Jamaica. But here's what I know. If I put that on my club website though, it creates a perception that this club is a trustworthy, accountable club. And if I have resources, I can give to them.
Look, man, here's the fact, Dennis. If you don't believe that your fans are part of your audience, so if you don't think regulators and your debtors and your sponsors should get that's fine. If you don't think the fans who support your program in a lot of respects and going to buy your sponsors' products when they advertise through you, and part of the audience you're accountable to, then you're right. You have no obligation to provide anything to them. If you think they're part of your audience, yes, go ahead.
You're trying to put a narrative on something that's not relevant.
Okay, go ahead. Okay.
The fact of the matter is that we communicate with our publics, right? But to provide financial information every month, it is not something that I think that I can appropriately do. I have to provide my information to my board of directors, right? And the persons who need to see that information for the efficient running of the organization. Why should I provide financial information every time, right? To the public? I provide my annual audited account. I don't even provide it. I mean, we provide information to FIFA as they require, but not the full financials that goes to our board. Right, at some point, right, you have to know that the people are running an organization and trust them, right? I must provide financial information expenditure to everybody.
So Dennis, let me close this out because we got to move on, right? We'll close this out. I'll just say this. All the financials in most instances are useless and only used by regulators, debtors, maybe agencies. Nobody in their right mind who deal with current information cares about all the financial statements. They're useless.
Yeah,
Quarterly financials, they're useless.
So
No,
what
they are.
what do you as a public want the financial information for monthly?
So here's the thing. So you asking the public to support your program, right? Whether they buy tickets to go to your events or they donate to the organization, correct? You want their support. Financial support.
I would love their support, yes, but you know,
Right.
I mean, the fact of the matter is that, you know, when I put on a match and you buy a ticket for a match,
Right.
your value for that ticket is the match that's played, right?
Yeah, but you're confusing something here. You talk about a national team. We're confusing this with a normal entity, normal private company. Your organization is a quasi-public organization. The obligation is a little bit different than to a private organization. It's equivalent to an EPL team, where the owner owns the team, but the fans believe they own the team.
So which EPL team puts out their financial statements every month?
No, I didn't say put out every month. Periodically, whether it's every 3 months, whether it's every 6 months.
Right, the EPL teams that put it out every 3 months does it because of the stock exchange requirements.
Okay.
That's why they do.
But here's the point I'm making, though. The EPL team don't have credibility issues. The JFF has a credibility issue.
Yeah, but if I put out unaudited information and have credibility issue, that's not going to clear up the credibility issue.
It won't, but you put a caveat with all these statements, which basically says these are not audited, meaning they're not being authenticated, but these are the numbers. You will see the audited financial statement at some point.
I put out my caveat and people say, well, you know what? Maybe what they're trying to do, you know, is say that the information not really right, but they're just giving a touch like that. I guarantee you.
But wait, Dennis, you and I know this. Public companies do that all the time. Quarterly statements are not audited.
Yeah, but public companies do it under a different set of rules, right? There are governance criteria that they follow. They follow stock exchange rules.
Hey, listen, this is
Let's move on because we can go to details about this. You and I agree to disagree. I said we agree to disagree.
But I used to do it. I used to put it out every quarter, and so I know.
Dennis, I am very familiar with the process. Trust me.
This is the accountant and the auditor having an argument.
Go ahead. Let's move on. So Dennis, let's transition the discussion to given the positive news we have gotten from all these tournaments we have competed in, but it's the under 50 we're in the semifinal, the World Cup we're in the semifinal, the Gold Cup we're in the semifinal.
We didn't go to the quarterfinals of the women.
Quarterfinals to
the
World Cup.
You could have called it semifinal. Call it final.
No, sorry, 16.
We made it through the first. We made it through the first round, which we have never done before. So you're right.
Right.
Which has been significant. The first Caribbean team that does this. How is the JFF leveraging that brand that is now being, if it wasn't great before, is now greater? How are you leveraging it to help the program grow and maximizing the benefits from that?
And where's the end market?
So let me tell you something. One thing about markets is that the general public is always last to the opportunities, right? And typical. I mean, when you talk about things like how stock markets move, the Fibonacci sequence and that sort of thing takes that into consideration, right? As the president has said, and as said by Simon Preston also, is very knowledgeable, this is the most successful year ever for Jamaican football internationally, right? The most successful ever international for Jamaican football is this year. And the fact that you see all of these sponsors come on, they have recognized it, and a lot of work has been going on in the background to target them and speak to these things. So it is not something that people just come on and throw the money at us. We have gone out, and these accomplishments we have targeted to these people and spoke to. In terms of from a public point of view, we are now speaking to a marketing person in terms of how are we going to elevate the brand further. But the reason why we're doing it, the primary reason, is that we want to ensure that we capitalize on it. And we're seeing new and new sponsors coming out, which is why it's important for us. And I mean, I don't want to discount the argument you made, Cranky, about credibility, because that has been very important to us, right? And more people are coming on because we do have these discussions, right? We do speak about some of the administrative things that's happening, right? And I think we are right now, because we're seeing the sponsors coming on actually benefiting from it. And you know, when the games come in September, I think you're going to see more crowds coming to the game because of that. So we do recognize it, and we have been doing a lot of work behind the scenes to get the sponsors on, speaking to the accomplishments, right? And we're going to expand that further in terms of the branding. And we're talking about how we can actually get some greater value from it also, right? So the Captain Horace Burrell Center, for example, we started in rebuilding it, rebranding it, and getting the word out. We had the Ghana national team come here and rent it. We had the Trinidad team stay here. We have a team that wanted to come at the end of August and actually rent it also, a club from overseas. So the word is getting out, and we are targeting the people that we need to target. So we're doing more guerrilla marketing now, right? And then you're going to see it expand further as we build more and more on it.
Hold on. Oh, sorry, Cranky, I muted you. Let me just ask myself strong this, because you mentioned marketing, and then come back in, Cranky, because I don't want the feedback. Let me ask you this, and this is just a thought, right? Because I think in last year we heard that Mr. Chris Deering would have been the chairman of the marketing department. That has not materialized, or if it has, we haven't seen it in front of us yet. But we have the Mona School of Business, and you have the Faculty of Business Administration at UTech, and every year bunch of kids graduate with first class honors in those two places, and all of them, when I was there, they do what they call internship with some of the major companies. A lot of these are some of the major marketing managers across Jamaica and stuff. Is it possible that the Jamaica Football Federation could at least plug the gap of marketing by partnering with one of these universities for the internship be to promote the team from now to the rest of the year, and the merchandise of the team? Is that a possibility? Could there be that until you find someone to fill the gap? Can that be done where we have someone or a group of you? This is internship, which will serve as part of their grade. There is probably a smaller stipend than what you'd pay somebody out there, but they get to do this, so you can have your interviews and find the appropriate person come January or February of 2024 to plug that gap. Is that a possibility? Because I think, in surfing, you have to ride the wave. If you allow this wave to die before the person is put in position, while you may get sponsorship, the issue may be the wave may have died out, so the surf don't look as good. So like, now is the moment, now is the time. Are we going to just jump on it right now and get things moving locally and in the diaspora to tap into, like you have said, this most successful year in our footballing history?
So Mannings, man, you're spot on, and that's what we're trying to do. And the truth is that I tell you, Mannings, man, there are people who come to you and they talk to you and say, boy, we want to do this. And you say, yeah, man, go ahead, let's do that. Give me an update, and you never hear back from them again. A lot of that happens. So we have to separate that. But that's something that we're doing, right? Now, management, when I spoke to you the first time, I think it was November last year, I said to you that one of the quickest ways to kill a product is to market a bad product, right? So the past few months we've been spending fixing the product. So when you see a lot of the things that happen with teams, you know, Manningsman, the amount of logistics that goes on behind the scenes, right? A lot of things have to happen. So the public sees the match. It's like Usain Bolt says. Usain Bolt says he would train 10 years for a race, right? And a lot of things go on behind it. I mean, the question you can ask, for example, is, would Usain Bolt be Usain Bolt without Glenn Mills, right? So we have had to fix the product because we've had issues that if we were to say from day one, just market what we had based on what's out there, we could have had a lot of issues, right? Because we've had to fix a lot of things in the background, right? And you know, Manningsman, that we even haven't finished fixing a lot of the things, right? But we've improved it significantly. So I think right now where we are with all of these things we're seeing, right? We are in a position now, right, to push out with some of these initiatives, right? But as I said, you don't want to market a product that can stand up. And the product is not just the game. The product is a lot of things behind it, right? So, I mean, I know people would want to say, okay, fine, you know, these successes are happening. Let's run out, you know, and grab it, right? But we have to look at something that's sustainable, right? So then when we go out and doing something, it's better for us to build it incrementally than to build, drop, right? But what you have said about engaging students and particular organizations like MSBM is a conversation that we have had. We've looked at ways in which we can do it because, you know, we've had some stops and starts with the marketing thing that we're trying to do, right? But I mean, that suggestion is a very good suggestion, Manningsman, and something we'll definitely take on board.
All right, Cranky, go ahead.
I even forgot what I was going to ask Dennis, but Dennis, we had the Gold Cup, and when we had the World Cup qualifiers, we had a bit of negative news that came out of that from the players. We had no such thing from the Gold Cup, and I will say it's Manningsman and Simon, but maybe I'm getting too much credit for that. But here's the thing, Dennis. But here's the thing, Dennis. My disappointment was that having had such good feedback from the Gold Cup and the players' sort of satisfaction, I was shocked and dismayed to hear from the girls who were subsequent to this, I thought we had turned the page, that we had some negativity coming out of that successful World Cup campaign. So as we go forward, how are we going to mitigate and prevent this from happening going forward?
Well, these things are going to happen. And as I said, it's never going to be a straight line, right? Progress is never straight. I mean, I use the analogy the other day of the stock market, and, you know, when everybody see the stock market fall back, right? I say, hey, this is a buying opportunity, you know, and I go in and I buy some shares, right? But what you recognize with the stock market, if you look at the trend, is that it never falls back to where it was 2 years ago or 5 or 10 years ago. You know, values raise, they fall back, and they raise again beyond where they had fallen back from. And I think that is what you're going to see, because there are, and I just spoke about the product, there are a lot of things that are coming from the past, right? And we have to deal with it because, you know, trust, I mean, even in personal relationships, right? When you lose trust with something, it's not something that build back overnight just like that, you know. You have to systematically build it. You know, what came out was unfortunate. I think a lot of it also was driven by the international media, right? Who, you know, I'm very disappointed in the international media because it shows me that they are no better than a social media site, You know,
Dennis, I disagree with you.
I'm telling you.
The media is reporting what was provided to them. What it was
No,
Nigeria.
Hold on. Let me tell you something, Cranky. And let me tell you why I said I have a reason why I said that. So the thing that started the whole thing was a person from Athletic Magazine who wrote to me and said to me, I have these questions based on what happened in 2019, right? And I said to them, but listen, I am not a historian, so I can't talk about 2019, right? I'm dealing with now, right? They say, well, is it true that so and so? And I wrote back to that person from Athletic Magazine and said, I do not want to speak about it now during the World Cup. We can speak about it after. But if you're insistent on writing on it, guess what? What you're saying, I can say, is not accurate. The person still went ahead and wrote it. Which professional journalist does that when the person that you went to as a source said it's not accurate?
Yeah, but
that's from that social media side to me.
But Dennis, there may be the genesis for this, but the discussion with Ian Wright got the most publicity by one of the players.
Talking about the international press, that was a social media post also.
No, but a social media post got into the international press.
I know that, but the international press has professional journalists.
No, I agree.
And they should say add 1 and 1 and say 1 and 1 don't equal 3. That is what a professional journalist does. If you do not do that as a professional journalist, then become a Facebook person like everybody else. But that is why I'm saying that for me, it was disheartening that these persons who are supposed to be traditional media with professional journalists and professional reporters just pick up something that didn't make any sense and run with it. Come on.
Yeah, but Dennis,
you want to excuse that?
Dennis, it goes back to the credibility issue of Dennis. That's the problem, you know.
It doesn't matter. Listen, Cranky.
Yeah.
Listen, professionals act based on facts and not based on emotions. Credibility. If you are an auditor and someone has an issue 5 years ago, you don't audit them based on what the issue was 5 years ago. You audit them based on the facts in front of them. And that is why I speak about the professional journalists. I expect a higher standard. And I even said it to the Gleaner and the Observer. I said, how can you guys just pick up something like that and run with it and nobody will even call me? Right? That is something I expect from a Facebook post.
I think Dennis is living in a past, Dennis, because
hold on. You are telling me that a professional today is not the same as how they should act last year?
No, because even the New York Times retract a number of statements from number of articles from their reporters, and they need to be authentic. So it happens. I'm not saying you're not right, but it happens.
But it still doesn't excuse the fact that
I agree. I agree.
And that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Let me ask you.
That's all I'm saying.
The girls were supposed to arrive. Some of the girls were supposed to arrive in Jamaica. There were some issues with the airport. The landing strip in Montego Bay. So some were delayed, I think, in Houston. Some were delayed in other places.
Yeah.
Have they all landed where they are supposed to? And what is planned for the girls? See that they go to different places. What is the JFF going to do for the group collectively, so that Jamaica can show their appreciation, at least those who live
right?
In
So the discussion on that, so they've all landed. And I mean, it was unfortunate what happened at Mobe Airport, because I really think that it was really sloppy of MBJ airports for an international airport, and I know the minister is dealing with that. So we got a little put off by it because we had sent the big bus down. Right. We had to let the driver stay overnight. Thanks again to Holiday Inn for facilitating it. They were great. And then when the flights came in, Holiday Inn facilitated them coming to the hotel and staying there until all the flights came in, and then they carried them in. The truth is that, though, most of the girls, as you know, do not live in Jamaica. And it would have been very difficult for them to come back here and then go there, and then come back here again for World Cup qualifiers. So the discussion Olympics, sorry. So the discussion that's taking place right now is that something will happen when they're all here before the Olympic qualifier.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. On that note, and then Cranky, you can think about your question, because I'm going to go to the male side a little bit. I don't know if you realize that Andre Blake, the captain of the senior team, has been Philadelphia has honored him.
Yeah.
All right. Because of his years of service and dedication. All right. One of the most outstanding goalkeepers in CONCACAF. All right. Probably coming to the end of his thing. Is there like plans in place?
Well, man, before you finish,
Mariappa.
before you finish, let me say that the president has been talking to me from early this year about doing an inaugural awards. I don't want to say much on it yet, because we're hoping it will be a huge thing, right? But definitely something like that is you'd have seen also that just this week we announced in the inaugural year for 2 scholarships that we're awarding to 2 high school students who represented the national team and is matriculating to a tertiary institution. So that's important, right? And again, William is supporting me on it, my food, because we are now saying is more than just playing football, but academics. So we're going to be awarding a girl and a boy $300,000 each. Hopefully we can. US. No, Jamaican dollars. Hopefully we can see it grow. But we have to start it somewhere, and we're starting it here, right? Hopefully we can see it grow beyond 2, right? We're starting it with 2, and we're gonna grow it as we go along. Hopefully other companies will come on, and provide us with a lot more. But we want to encourage people who has represented the national teams, to have something. And this is just an official thing, because in many cases, we do assist people privately, from an individual point of view, an organization point of view, but we wanted to do this to make the link, to let players understand that we are pushing academics also. It's not just about playing football, but we're doing that. And what the president wants to do about the awards is also going to tie into that. So it's timely that you talk about that. We recognize all of that. There are a lot of past players, a lot of past people who have also contributed, but that more to come on that. More on that is going to come out.
Okay, I ask you that because in Chicago, the people of Chicago gave something to Adrian Mariappa, and I thought to myself that I don't know, I'm not the coach, but what if he's not called back? Would have missed the football would have missed an opportunity to really honor someone like him, who has, so many caps as a senior player. He doesn't live in Jamaica, but
yeah.
So
but Manning's man, it's not just Mariappa, it's a lot of other players in the past.
Yeah, man, I know that, but you're just using that this. Yeah, I agree, but I just use that because I know that happened while at the Gold Cup, so that's why I raised it. But Frankie, go ahead. I know you have some other questions on your list that you want to ask, and
no, I'm gonna move from the list now. Me pivot.
Listen, man. Manning's man. Wait, Cranky, when you coming to Jamaica again?
September.
I'm going to India. March. I'm coming.
March, yeah. So man is when Cranky come buy me a big dinner, man.
Yeah. No problem. Vegetarian though. I don't eat meat.
Yeah, man. I'm with you. I'm with you on that.
So here's the question, Dennis, which is, what's the current financial condition of the JFF? Because we hear a lot that we are a poor country. I'm gonna follow up by saying this though. There are people on this program who recognize that there are some countries that have infinite resources. Right? We have had this discussion quite a bit. And the question is, what are we doing to find a way to engage some of these countries to generate some of these resources? Not free, because nothing in life is free. It's probably like barter, more like barter, because we don't have much to get them, but more like barter. What are we doing to improve our financial condition outside the traditional means of doing so through sponsorship and otherwise? There are some countries who we know have resources they're trying to give away. So how can we engage some of those? I won't name any names. Some of those countries to build relationship with them to generate some of those resources.
To give Qatar and Saudi Arabia.
Don't mention countries' name, Mannings, man.
Sorry, all right.
We have guys of high money. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's funny I've said that because we have actually had discussions with one or two already to see what sort of support we can get. Those things don't come overnight though. You have to develop relationships and so that's something, Cranky. I mean, you're right. You hit the nail on the head. Those are things we're talking about. We also mentioned the center, and Ghana actually came here. So we just don't want to just ask for money, but how can we provide a service for it? So Ghana came here, for example, and rented the center, and played some of our Premier League teams. That's income coming not just to the JFF, but within the country also, right. But we have done those engagement, Cranky, and we're trying to build some relationships there. That's what I'd say.
But Dennis, when you first came in this program a while ago, I said to you, your biggest challenge is having adequate, resources in terms of human capital, to help you and the organization move forward. What's the progress in that front? I know you had management and Simon as I'm gonna call them. I'm not gonna call them employees of the organization because they're not. They're
contract.
Contracted workers. Yes. So contingent workers.
And I just see it. I just said people like Manningson and Simon has come on and made a significant contribution, because I mean we don't pay them what they're really worth, but they made a significant contribution. We've also had, for example, Dennis Grant, who is the CEO of Carimed, chairing a committee for us. He chaired the Trophy Tour committee in Jamaica. We had Charbel Johnson, who is the CEO at Sagicor Bank, chair the football for schools that we hosted. We also, for the under-17 tournament, we have Stuart Jacob from Derrimon, who is chairing that committee also. I've had people from outside who said they want to help. Right, we're putting together some committees now, so we do have more and more people getting involved in helping us, right? And we're using them as much as we can. Of course, from the point of view of organization and administration, they help in terms of technical. We still have to rely on many of our people who know the football, because it's different, but we do have that interaction going, and we're hoping to grow it even further, because some people have said that. I mean, when you talk about our finance committee, for example, the chair is a private person, Nikisha Yulett, who is a chartered accountant, and has been doing well there. So we do have people who are coming on and assisting us in terms of that human capital, and the more the merrier. Freddie Butler, also Manningsman, helping us in the US with the camps, so we do have that sort of assistance that's coming in.
I was just going to ask you that, because you mentioned Freddie Butler, but there are so many persons, including Cranky, Neil, who have said, listen, what can I do? They have really put themselves up. And I know Neil Sovereign is the attorney, who have always said, listen, they have expertise, what needs to be done, right? though they're in the USA, they have that. So I think that is the next. That's
Yeah,
an avenue.
yeah.
Because you spoke about, I remember when you just came on and you were doing these interviews, you spoke about the capacity, which you were talking about, just the raw resources you have in terms of personnel to do the work that is supposed to be done. Like I was here for a short while, and just basic core functions, it's understaffed. You understand me? It's understaffed, but then you probably can't pay 10 persons, but the work needs to be done. So how do you get more persons to do the work with probably the same financial resources you have? Because you may not get more resources financially, but you need more human resources
Yeah.
with the
But-
same financial resources. How are you going to do that?
Well, we have to reach out to people, as I said, like the people who I spoke to, and anybody who wants to come on and assist, we can always find a way for people to assist. We're putting some committees together now also, right, which we've reached out to some other persons outside of JFF, and they're coming on to assist us. So, I mean, people like Cranky, as I said, can assist us in the diaspora. Should we have a diaspora outreach committees in various places, for example? So we build that communication, we build that relationship with the diaspora, and ways that we can help reaching out to persons overseas to help us with sponsorship. All of that can be done. It's just that it has been so overwhelming, as you know, Manningsman, because of the amount of things that we're doing, that we incrementally building up to it, and we'll eventually get around to all of those things.
So then this is a general question, three-part question, which is, what's your biggest frustration to date? What is your biggest challenge going forward? And what are you most optimistic about?
The biggest frustration to date, I think, has been the culture that has built up, not just at the JFF, but also in football in general, right? So we haven't had, in many respects, a professional approach to the administration of football, right? So the whole thing, like governance and that sort of thing, ensuring policies are in place, right? That for me has been the biggest frustration, which we're trying to whittle away at. In terms of the biggest challenge going forward, it remains that also again, the culture, because as Patrick Hilton, who was at NCB, said once, culture eats strategy any day. If you have a good culture in an organization, that organization, like JFF with a brand like what we have, is going to grow. If you look at books like Built to Last and Good to Great, that was written by Jim Collins, the main theme in those books is the culture in the organization that leads to these large companies lasting so long, right? And I think that we have to address that culture issue within sports in general in Jamaica, sports administration. I think that JFF as an organization, right, is a much easier organization to turn around than like an NSWMA, right? And I always speak about it. NSWMA was seen as the most corrupt organization 2015 when we took it over. In 4 years' time after that, we were winning corporate governance awards, right? The difference is that NSWMA being an organization, a company, it is easier to change a culture and supported by the government, right? If you find yourself in an organization that the culture is difficult to change, the progress is going to be difficult. And I think I had this conversation with Manningsman, not in so many terms, but culture is what drives an organization. Culture, permeates not just within the organization, but you see it affecting the fan base also when they speak about credibility. What they're speaking about when they speak about lack of credibility in the organization is that, hey, this organization don't have the right culture, you know. Right? And that is what we're going to have to fix. And that's what I want people like you guys to help us fix that. Because the more you talk about it, the more we have conversations like this, right? Is the greater the pressure is on to fix that culture. You know, and once we do that, I think JFF and Jamaican football is going to be a powerhouse. There's a lot of value in the brand, but the value is being kept down by the way the culture has been practiced. Once we change that, I think the culture is going to change. I think the fans, the public sentiments is going to change towards the organization. And that's why I haven't been in a rush to go out and create this big marketing hype, because we still have cultural issues that we're trying to address underneath. And what the public is feeling is because of those cultural issues that we have to address. And, you know, we're going to have to take some decisions. I mean, you know, sad to say that, but our legislative environment actually supports a lot of slack culture in the country also.
So I'll say this, Dennis, which is I'm glad Jamaican has taken Peter Drucker's culture is stretched for breakfast and taking it on as theirs, but that's interesting. But I'll say this, which is this.
Yeah, well, let me just say this to Keter, who is on the line, Cranky, and then I finish. Keterak, he didn't say culture beats, eats. It is a famous quote, right?
Yeah.
It is an actual
Peter
quote.
Drucker says that. Yeah. Go ahead.
It eats strategy, not beats strategy. All right. So go ahead, Cranky.
Yeah. So Dennis, here's the point, Dennis. To change a culture, you have to do one of two things. Either the people change or you change the people. Because the culture is about the people. So the question, so if the people if you're there and you're trying to change the people and they're not changing, you have to change it. You have to change them. Try to change the mindset, change how they operate, change how things are done, and it's not changing. You have to change them.
So let's go to good to great. Get the right people on the bus, get the wrong people off the bus, and get the right people in the right seat.
Yes.
And you keep the bus.
Yeah,
So
but you know that changing culture is also a difficult thing to do, because you have to work within the confines of rules and legislation, and also you have to ensure that, you know, many times the situation with culture is not the people, but the way they have been led in terms of the processes and all of that is in place. You know, I mean, so when you look at
the people can change. If the people can change,
people can change. I mean, when you look at a country like Jamaica, for example, right? And I always say this, you know, we talk about solving crime. Crime will never be solved once you have a lawless environment. Unless you fix the environment, which is the culture, crime won't solve. It will continue in perpetuity.
No, I think we're doing. I don't want to digress into that, but I'll say this: people try to solve crime by having more police and more authority. That doesn't solve crime.
No,
crime, it comes from poverty and education, fundamental things that inform that. Yeah. And to fix any problem, not the symptom, you got to fix the root cause.
Yes.
Right, we have a call online, Mr. Chung, so I'm going to take him. But what I will say is that it is, if you and I know this. And I have good to great. It was right on my desk here. One thing I know is that you can have the same bus and go in the same direction, but you have to change the people, because you don't want all the people of a certain size to be on one side of the bus, because when you go over here, you go and turn over.
I don't want to say change the people. You have to change the way the thinking of the people. So it can be
Dennis, we are going to agree to disagree. Because here's the thing, Dennis. Sometimes you have people with the best of intention. They are hard workers, but they don't just have the acumen or the intellectual capacity or whatever you need for the role to execute the role. It's a fact of life.
Yeah, no, that's true. Because I mean, someone can operate above their Peter principle. Yeah. That's true. You know, yeah.
Let's take the caller. Caller, good evening. Welcome to the show. Good to have you.
Good evening, Marines man. On the 4-minute mark, and I will end on the 9-minute mark and respect your 5-minute per call rule. Good evening, Mr. Chung.
Yeah,
Good
man. How
evening,
you doing?
Crunchy, and everybody. This is Cataract, you know. I'm just going to set out some questions, Sir Jensek, and then I will exit the line and allow you to answer them if the time permits. The first is, when we spoke previously on this platform, I posed the question to you whether the JFF has a standard operating procedures document. At that time, I think it was about February, you had indicated that they don't. They did not. Now we are in the middle of August. My first question is, does the JFF have a standard operating procedures document in place now? Number two, does the JFF practice performance appraisal culture? And if so, has the mid-year performance evaluations been done? And if so, have new targets been put in place for the persons who are engaged to the GFF? And that will fall on your responsibility. The third question is a more factual question. As at the start of the Women's World Cup, in the Jamaica Football Federation, members of the Reggae Girls senior women's squad monies that were contractually due, and have those since been paid? So that's my third question. And my fourth question, and I don't find you often, so I'm going to ask you, is related to the men's team, and that is that it's regarding Mason Greenwood. And has the JFF, through its General Secretary's office, now this has nothing to do with his selection to the team, has the JFF, through the General Secretary's office, which is the CEO of the company, reached out and attempted to make contact with the footballer as to whether he is desirous of getting his Jamaican citizenship and passport? Nothing to do with recruiting to play in the team. And those are my first four questions.
All right.
Yeah,
So
listen for some answer.
Let me just answer your last question. Let me answer your last question. Let me answer.
Those questions were posed.
Let me answer the last question, because I've said it time and time again on the program. The person who is they have spoken to Mason Greenwood. He has been spoken to, and I've said it before. So, and we've had conversation. The person who is responsible for the national team, Himir Hallgrimsson, has spoken to the player.
Yes.
You have said that.
I've heard that.
So why do you need what we said that, and we agreed that it happened Cataract, and then you want to hear it from somebody else?
No. I'm sure. The godly General Secretary understands the idiosyncrasies of the question.
No, but Cataract. We wouldn't reach out. I wouldn't reach out initially without something coming from the coach. So when the coach says to me, listen, I've had conversation and I want you to now do this, then that is when I would get involved and do it. You understand?
Yeah. Since man has answered that question for you, I will just pop something in here. While listening to you, you mentioned the Fibonacci sequence.
Yes, the Fibonacci sequence. You're familiar with it?
Yes, I have a degree in mathematics. The sequence where the preceding number is the sum of the two preceding numbers.
Yes,
what does that have to do with the administration of Jamaican football?
No, I was making the point that when you I was making the point that when you look at the way the Fibonacci sequence moves in waves, so if you look at the stock market that uses, the traders use the Fibonacci sequence, you have what you call 5 waves, right? And when you look at the first waves, normally what you have is institutional investors that come to market, right? And those are the people who would have the analysis and the foresight from the analysis. Normally what happens when that first wave happens is there's a pullback, right, to about 33.33% to 50% of the initial first wave. When the second wave happens, then is more institutional investors getting involved, and is normally a longer wave, right? And then there's a pullback from that also. And then on the third wave is when the general population starts getting in now. That is when people who know about trading knows that whenever you see the stock market start running like that and everybody talking about it, it's time to exit, right? Because you know it's going to crash, right? And I was making that point to say that in terms of getting on board with what JFF is doing, you'll find that a lot of the sponsors are in that first or second wave, right? And that's the natural sequence of how these things move, right? And hence the adage in investment circles: buy when everybody is selling and sell when everybody is buying.
So we were doing so well with the questions initially, and as usual, we're going to go for a tangent and bring us to some place we don't want to go. So let's come back. Good questions.
Frankie, that shows our versatility.
The preceding 3 minutes of the program were brought to you by Cataract Power Sound. If you're keeping a funeral and 990, that is the sound you want to hire, call them at 876.
The proceeding was brought to you by Christchurch College, Oxford University.
All right. Cataract,
all right,
hold on, let you
so in terms of the questions, the first one about the standard operating procedures, we have, and we had mentioned that FIFA has someone who is working with us. We have put certain policies in place. We have put certain operating procedures in place. For example, when we're doing a trip, for example, I mean, there are certain standard things we have in place. So we ask coaches, for example, to submit the names to us 4 weeks before, so that by week 3.5, we can start applying for the visas. And medical supplies, we ask the medical team to submit it to us 2 weeks before. So we have that. So, I mean, recently, as you say, we haven't really had any issues, right, with the organization of trips and that sort of thing. They don't comply to it all the while, right? But one of the things I said to my coaches is that if I don't get your list 4 weeks in advance, I cannot guarantee a visa for any person that come after that, right? But because that's the time that we want. In terms of the second, what was the second question, Manager?
He was asking about the payment to the girls.
Yeah.
No, that was performance appraisal was the second, but go ahead. Payment
performance appraisal, yeah. So we do have targets for everyone within the organization that was set out in a strategic scorecard that we have for the organization, and we do continuous reviews on it, and we've had meetings on it. So we do have those initiatives set out for everyone in a strategic scorecard, which has been set up by the management. Yeah.
Yeah, no, because what I asked about was the human resource management process of performance.
Yeah, man. So that's how we manage it. We set targets for everyone, and then we have reviews of those targets with everyone, and that's how we manage it. And I've made it very clear to people that, you know, if you're looking at an incentive towards at the end of the year, then you have to make sure you meet those targets, right? So we monitor those things, and we meet with people continuously, and we do performance appraisals on them.
or is it that they're looking to retain their position?
Well, that's a part. It depends on how egregious. Yeah, it depends on how egregious the missing of the target is. So I mean, all of those things are considered, but those are personal issues, which we do track all of that. The last one on the payment to the girls, we do recognize. I mean, some of the money that was owed from last year, we've paid it, but some of the money we're just not going to be able to pay until we get the prize money. And the president has made that clear that once those prize money is coming, we're going to liquidate all the debts to the girls.
There's a follow-up question, actually, the Mannings man, to Dennis, which is, what's the current financial condition of the JFF?
It's better than it was last year. I mean, we still have an issue. I've made the point that towards year-to-date, January to June, we actually made a surplus of $16 million.
US?
No, Mannings man. Mannings man is where you live. Because but you see, Cranky, the man get the one trip go US and thinks him is a US citizen now.
But Dennis, to be fair, to even Dennis, the problem you have is because the Jamaican dollar is, you know what? It doesn't have any peg to inflation. It's not inflationary peg. It's a problem.
But let me take a swipe at management now. Being a patriot, Cranky, I speak in Jamaican dollar terms.
Okay.
I'm saying that whether you're $16 million surplus, that is some people's salary in Jamaica, you know.
No. But Dennis, it's important. Dennis, when you say surplus, it's very important for people to understand what does that mean, right? So, what's the debt? The most important. What's the debt? What's your outstanding debt? And when can you pay off that debt, if possible? Yes.
Yeah, the outstanding debt is over $200 million right now. In terms
every time
of
you talk, you have to do calculation, and every time you talk, you put in English.
That's what I'm telling you.
And it's Jamaican dollars, not US dollars, right? So we've been paying it down, right? And we have some plans in place to try and reduce that significantly. But the financial condition is not the best, and definitely we'd love some more money in because we have a lot of things that's happening. And this year has been maybe the busiest year in the JFF ever, right? And we do have a lot of expenses coming up.
Let me give you a good example, Mr. Chung. Why I do what I do, sorry. But I want you to know that your surplus was $106,000 US. I just wonder, because I think if you said that, it resonate. So people will say, oh, they don't make no money. Because $16 million, just $16 million dollars.
Yeah. Well, that's true.
When people hear million in Jamaica, they think it's a lot of money. But
it's not a lot. It's
when you buy a plane ticket, $16 million is not $16 million, it's $106,000.
Yeah. And so that can't even pay for the plane fare for that team to go somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah, Mannings man and Cranky. I really just I don't have a lot more time though. I really have to run.
Okay.
Because it's almost 2 hours now.
Yeah, man. I'm going to let you run. Cataract. I have one more person who want to call in. You say you're going to do 9 minutes.
No. So I'm out of here, man.
You're on 17. Goodbye. You have no credit left. Let's take. This is Soldier from England, and then we'll go let me say. Yeah, the debt is 1.3 million.
Yeah.
US. Here you go.
About that, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just ask Adidas to pay it down. But anyway, let's hear a Soldier.
Or one of those nations with a lot of money.
Our Mannings man, we can ask Cranky to lead that committee.
Yeah.
I have no problem talking to sovereign nations asking for money.
Welcome to the show, Soldier. You have 5 minutes because Mr. Chung has to go.
Yeah, man. Good evening. Good evening. Cranky and Mr. Chuck. Yeah, Mr. Chuck. Yeah, man. Yeah. Well, all right. Glad to see you come on, man. So, what are you doing for the person in England now? We're doing so much work and and nothing. I don't hear anything. Only man is man reaching out to and everything going on with JFF is just man is man reach out to me.
Yeah, but soldier, is the only man call me, you know. So
Yeah,
I mean, listen. You know, say no woman not gonna marry you until you ask her.
So
But you
no,
know,
Mr. Chung, trust me, the wrong person you are gonna get run away. so let me tell you who you're talking to.
It's sound like he marks a whole heap of them Mannings, man.
No, he has 17 kids.
Oh.
17 kids, right? He has 18 kids with 17 different ladies. So
Oh, okay.
you know what?
So it's not like him should be living in the Middle East.
Yeah, but
no, not really.
go
Yeah, man. So I say so. Yeah, because in England, if anything at all, if man hear about a player, man call me, I'm on it like that for him. But what you guys doing for the diaspora person in England?
So when you said doing for you, meaning what? In terms of what?
Yeah, I think it's a good question.
No,
What is the JFF connection with? Are you connecting with the major hub in Jamaica, like in London? Is there like a JFF, like an affiliation? You know, sometimes you have this.
Yeah.
Let me give you simple. Back in the days, like when Captain was here, Mr. Chung, Mr. Captain used to come and contact me directly and said, do this. And Mr. Downswell can't, Mr. Downswell one used to do that too. But what I'm saying to you, I will cut long and tall, I short. There was this little boy that's born in England. Just he played for my team. He just signed to Arsenal. You know, his dad bring him to Jamaica and sort out his paper, and he get his Jamaican passport in birth paper less than a week. So why we cannot fly the guys them from here instead of doing the chance them to do it in London and it have to come to Jamaica and come back? You don't think it's cheaper if they fly down to Jamaica and get it started?
I'm not going to discount that, soldier, and the door is open. I mean, if you believe that there's some assistance you can help and we can improve the communication, I have no problem with that. You know, I mean, reach out and let's talk.
Well, no, man, you can reach out. I have a problem for assisting them because, but I will assist them because
he has $2,000. He has $2,000 for the reggae girls because he was going to give them 5,000, but they didn't advance. So he has 2,000 pounds. 2,000 pounds.
That he won betting on them actually. So he's a true supporter.
Yeah.
No, this is all giving me 5,000 US, man.
Not 2,000 pounds, 5,000 US. Okay.
Yeah, no. Listen, soldier. Listen. I would love to get everybody involved. I mean, it's not a matter that we neglecting anybody. It's just that we just don't get there yet. But I mean, I would love if you could initiate something with us, and I would deal with it. I don't have no problem with that.
No, well, as me say, well, I'm going to come down still. As me say,
he's going to be here. He's going to be here in the 8th for the he's flying down.
Yeah, man. Well, soldier, when you come down, you just reach out to me, man, and we talk.
Yeah.
No problem.
Man,
but our management said maybe you've been too busy why you couldn't reach out to us.
No, I was in Jamaica the other day and I fly down for the come watch it. I was gonna come down next week, but now go America because I have a son that got John Hopkins, so I have to go over there go see that everything go through with him. All right.
I'm sure soldiers are playing constantly because there's a lot of songs in a lot of different places. So probably these are not playing.
All right, soldier. We go. Yeah, man. So big up yourself. Yeah, man. All right. So in September, I'll introduce you to Mr. Chung once you come down and you can work out.
Man is man.
Yes, sir.
If I don't get to come, listen, if I don't get to come, what I'm going to do, I'm going to send somebody to you buy 10 tickets and I'll send 5 person, you go the other 5 ticket to somebody, grandstand ticket.
So you're buying 10 grandstand tickets, 5 to give away.
Yeah, 10 grandstand tickets.
And you have
5 to give away. Me have 5 where you give to other person. So you do who you want to give to.
All right then, not a problem. All right, respect, soldier.
Yeah, man.
All right then.
Yeah, Mr. Chung.
Yeah, man. All right, respect. All right, guys. So I forgot to run here.
Yeah, man.
All right, Dennis.
Yeah, man.
Thanks, I really appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for coming on, joining us.
Yeah.
No problem. Respect. Yeah, man. Cool.
All right. All right, there you have it. That was Mr. Dennis Strong. 2 hours he spent with us. Good time. I think we got some clarity. Some ideas were thrown out. Didn't go. Some of the questions we never got to ask Cranky. But how do you feel about as we close? How do you feel about the interview or the discussion?
No, look, I think Dennis has always made himself available since he assumed the position of GenSec, and I think that's a good thing because we normally didn't have access to those individuals. And he tries to be transparent. I know some are skeptical still about some of the things that he says. And as we've talked to Dennis about, the credibility is an issue for the JFF. So there's always going to be skeptics. But I think the more the JFF can come out and talk to the general public, and I'm trying to convince Dennis to think about how we can get information more timely to the general public, especially about finances. A lot of times, people want to contribute to organizations, we want to make sure their funding, their resources, their money that they work hard for is spent in the right way for the things that they desire to be spent for. And unless someone's going to be able to convince you that the money is not going to be used for personal purposes and more for what its intended purpose, people are reluctant to contribute in any way, shape, or form. And that's why you hear me trying to push Dennis to think about how can you get information or time to people about what revenues they receive and how that revenues are distributed to pay expenses and otherwise, right? The more you're transparent, and if you think that the general public who support your program is part of your constituent, then you want to reach out to them, continue a dialogue, continue an engagement to make sure you build up that trust, which is lacking. And so my hope is that he'll make himself available to different forms as he's been doing, and has been doing this religiously, and keep communicating the message. I don't think the message we heard from the girls was in its totality in terms of the holistic nature of the message. It was partial. And until you get the total, and I always say this, man, there's 3 sides to every story. Because no matter how credible you are and who you are, you want to make yourself look good. So I'm going to hear your side, you hear my side, and there's something in the middle that's accurate. Doesn't mean you're not telling the truth, We're going to present it from your perspective, from your vantage point, which an independent person trying to see it. When you say it, they don't think you're credible. They hear from some place that they say something is amiss. Because the 2 stories don't balance. And that's what we're hearing with the JFF and the girls. You hear one person come out in a public forum where they got the visibility, they got the attention, and says, you know what, we have to fund ourselves. And then you hear someone says, no, you didn't fund yourself. Most of the resources came from another avenue. Not what you're saying it is, but people ran with the initial story. So until you get the total picture, then you'll never have a good view and provide the right perspective as to how things actually work, which is disconcerting, actually.
Yeah, I think for me one of the things that need to happen, because I think that I think her name is Sandra Phillips. I think her good deed has probably tarnished her to some extent, and I don't think that was her intent. But I
think her good deed tarnished the JFF. I think we have it wrong. Because if you said Manningsman, come on and say, you know what, I'm a player, and the JFF didn't say the JFF that we had to do GoFundMe to get to Australia and to pay our expenses. That's the only thing in the Manningsman. What it then says in another vein is that the organization who are the ones that's supposed to be sponsoring you and paying your expenses is not doing so. That's what that message says. So it didn't tarnish her, it tarnished the JFF.
But she did not say that, though.
Now, I'm not talking about her. I'm talking about the person who was talking to Ian Wright.
So what I am saying is, though, here is this lady that did the GoFundMe. But when the GoFundMe was raised, everything was pointed at her because she did the GoFundMe.
Right.
But she at no point said she bought any tickets. She didn't say she paid for any accommodation. She didn't say any of that. But many people kind of pour a lot of blame on her. And so she had to come out. And that's why I said to Mr. Chung that I think it would be good for both of them to talk.
Yeah, and well, you get it to me who was saying that on her. Most of the narrative I heard, management, was about the JFF not doing their job. That's how I translate the information I got. I wasn't thinking about the person who did GoFundMe, right? What you hear, management, is that management had to go raise funds for him to go play in Australia. That's what you hear. You don't hear, well, management had to raise part of the funds to subsidize part of what we did. That wasn't the message. We did it all by ourselves. That's what you hear. We did it all by ourselves. We had to do it ourselves. We had no support, whether it's government, whether it's foundation, whether it's the JFF, whether it's FIFA. That wasn't what came out in the narrative. It didn't say part of the monies that we got was from GoFundMe. It made it seem like it was everything. Okay. That was why the message was so hard to digest, actually.
Yeah. And there are two things I want people to understand, right? If you're doing a GoFundMe using say Woolmer's, listen, I'm doing a GoFundMe for Manning's High School, for Manning's School, for their DaCosta Cup. And I'm saying, and I'm using Manning's because I know I'll get a lot of Manning's persons to give to that. I think that must be sanctioned by Manning's. Right?
Yeah.
Because do I really have the autonomy to use the image of Manning's to raise the money while Manning's doesn't know if I'm going to give them the money? Can I? How does that work?
Well, I mean, look, Manning's would have to go sue you for using their names inappropriately if they have the name copyright, or they have trademark or whatever it is, right? You can put everything. And I think it was a good intention on the person who did this part, you know. It just didn't work out well because what was communicated to the general public just went off the rail, Manning's, man. That's the problem. I'll give you an example, Manning's. Somebody doing good work, like Troy Malcolm, for example. We communicate with Troy, right? Troy doing that thing in Russie's, which I haven't contributed, by the way, I'm going to contribute to. But the way Troy sent his message, because Troy sent me a lot of stuff, you know. But you actually send your man a video showing somebody building something. I know Troy's building his own house, but I'm going to contribute to the Troy program because Troy does a good job of marketing the product.
Troy is going to be here next week, you know. So I made
he has a event in the Bronx next week I'm going to attend to. I intend to contribute to it because I was very impressed because I know Troy is a person of integrity, frankly. And Troy's been doing these things. This is a one-off situation, right? He does these things all the time. But those things as management, at least you feel trust the person because you know the body of work that they have provided over the years and what they have done and what they continue to do. So you're more apt to want to give to their program. And they're giving you evidence to say what they're doing. The JFF need to do a better job of trying to build their credibility. So I'm trying to articulate to Dennis that if he comes up more and reach out to the public, but provide them documented evidence from the things they're doing, it's more easily digestible. Just telling me something doesn't mean it. I got documented in Manning's, man, to show me what was in the GoFundMe in Manning's, man. How much people spending on. People send me stuff. I look at it and say, I looked at it and said, you know what? This doesn't make sense to me. Just like Dennis said.
The amount of money in the GoFundMe, that can buy 2 tickets.
But that's important, which is, I looked at it and said, you know what? You know what to go to Australia because Australia?
That's what I'm saying. They could buy 2 tickets.
First of all, they're not flying economy. They'll probably fly, premium economy or business class, Manning's, man.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money. For 30 plus people, it's a lot of money, Manning's, man. It's not cheap. It's more than the GoFundMe that they raised, actually. So, but that needs to be communicated, Manning's, man. And that's not communicated well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's a good thing. Listen, people. Listen, Monday is the 14th of August. That is Monday, the 14th of August. It's Manning's man birthday. All right?
You have birthday? Really? You're born?
So, listen, I'm telling you from now, when I get on the stream, I'll cranky. Listen.
I work on Mondays and Mondays. Monday to Friday is very difficult for me. I work. I actually have a day job, and I go to work at 4:30 and get home till after 7.
The channel, let me just say this. The channel, I'm trying to do something new with the channel because of the World Championship, right? and I need $1,400 to make the improvement because my birthday is on the 14th. So all that is 14 and 14 is what? 28?
1,400 Jamaican dollars or US dollars?
I knew you were going to ask. I knew you were going to ask that. That's why I just said 14. So all that takes is like 28 people to give $50 or 14 people to give $100, right? And we make the upgrade.
So for total transparency, what is it you want to do with the channel? So you saw like you act like the JFF. Give me $1,400. You don't tell people where you do the money, you know.
Yeah.
That better about, you know.
So when Pioneer, what we want to do, you know, we have Mother, stop misrepresenting the lady name she spoke with. But anyways, I still get to that comment, right? Reedy Earthstrong on the 15th, man. That is awesome. All right. So no, man, I can't tell you about the super chat thing. So because the super chat, so what I'm going to do for the World Championship, Pioneer is going to be here. So we have everything, including additional mic and settings and stuff. So we need to add a computer there, and then we need the analyst person over there because we have a studio area that we have now. So that is what we want to do to upgrade it. So if you can do that. No pressure, no shame. Here's the information. But Butters, I don't understand what you're saying, because I have been saying all along that this lady had good intentions, and I've been supporting her and said that the JFF need. What are you saying? How am I misrepresenting the lady's name? The JFF said they didn't sanction it. She said they did not sanction it, but she still did it. I said she wasn't raising money. So I don't know. What are you talking about? That's what Cranky and I have been saying. Have you not been listening, Butters? Nobody misrepresenting her. Nobody is misrepresenting, and do not say that about me, sir. Respectfully, or Cranky. We have been here saying, Cranky speaking about the person. Cranky said the person who did the interview with Ian Wright. I said this lady was on Dean Jackson Miller and she wants to meet with Mr. Chung. I did not say she tarnished her name. Why not listen, man? I said she did a good thing, and the good thing she did was even spoken of. Cranky said it was a JFF name that was tarnished because of all the things that people were saying. How am I tarnishing her name? You're not listening. You're not listening. I am saying that because of what the JFF have said and what the player said, it came across like the lady did raise money. She did not. So her name was dragged through the mud. That is what she said on Dean Jackson Miller show. So how you are saying, what is wrong with you? Listen, man, before you comment. Come on, man. You're better than that, you know. Butters, you're better than that, Butters, man. Not do that with money, man. Not do that with money. Don't do that, right? You know, there's always these comments that I have to take on. Cranky did not correct me. Cranky said, this is what Cranky said. So I said the lady's name was tarnished. Let's use your term. Why was that? Because what the JFF has said and what the athlete said, it did not add up. It doesn't add up. Cranky said it was not her name that was tarnished. It would have been the JFF. Because all the bad publicity, right, Cranky, was aimed towards the JFF. How you get it from me? I tarnish the lady name.
I understand what the confusion is. I think what he's saying is that what he heard was you saying her name was tarnished, and what you're saying is, given what transpired, instead of put her through the ringer, so it affected her name and her credibility. Yeah. Well, I'm saying no, it was more the JFF credibility that affected. Yeah. Because the communication that was made to Ian Wright, which I think I'm trying to tell Dennis, that was the main thing we all heard, you know. A player who was the main player of the team coming out and saying they had to raise things to GoFundMe. That's what took off. More anything else.
Iman still has say thanks, you know, because Iman convinced.
No. I think I understand what Butters is saying. I understand what you're saying. So no, it's fine. It's fine.
We can't. True cataract. Now, what a cataract advice. I'm going to take my 5 minutes that goes up to the 9 minute. And I want to ask some questions. And I'm going to call Ketarak a new name. Every question that he asked, he said, he said, so if boss, you realize he asked one question, right?
The man asked 4 questions in a row. So the person received the question need to remember all the questions in the sequence they were provided. Because him can't ask one question enough. Because he has so much to get out as usual.
Yeah. And not only that, one question had part A, B, C, D. Then you go to the second question.
I wrote them down, right? Because I knew where he's going and I wrote them down to make sure the sequences was right. Because I know how he operates. Right.
Hey, big up brothers, man. You know one love, man. We always have to take out we have to pull one of the comments and kind of make a thing. But Cranky, thank you so much. It is a good day. Arsenal won.
I wasn't pleased, Mannings, man. I wasn't pleased.
I was not pleased, but we're going to talk about
that's for another day. Story for another day. I wasn't pleased. No, but we want to thank everyone who has joined us for this discussion. I think Dennis did a good job, as he normally does in these forums, of trying to provide things from a JFA perspective. I told Dennis this in a Mannings, man. If you want to change, first of all, when Dennis mentioned about this person from what was NCB and the whole each strategy for breakfast, Jamaican them sing this song that way back when Mannings, man, and in a reggae version when it was an R&B, and then they take credit feed. But it's interesting. But the point I want to make is this, which is, if you want to change a culture, if that's the biggest challenge, then you have to change the people. Because if the people are not changing, then you have to change them. That's the only way you're going to make progress.
But in Good to Great, that's what Jim Collins did. He said you have to get the wrong people off the bus and get the right people on the bus. What Mr. Chung is saying, all right? What Mr. Chung is saying is that you need to try and not and change how the people think and keep them.
Mannings man. We all have a certain level of whatever, Mannings man. It doesn't work like that. I'm sorry. Mannings man, if you want me to go play center forward and I don't have center forward's capability, no matter how much you want to train me, it's not going to happen, Mannings man.
Yeah.
That's what he's experiencing and don't know how to change it and not changing it.
Yeah, read it. Don't worry yourself, man. Read it. Watch you know. You go see me like this month, man. Don't worry. Make sure you take care of my son, because he's around your side. So, but I'll be there shortly to give him a link, But listen, bless up to everyone. Cranky, thanks again. I know you were getting your Saturday rest after the game and things. So all the EPL fans, please check out the fantasy, the I Am Sure Sports Fantasy League. You can get ready for next week. I think some people got some major points today. Some people lost some points because Aston Villa. Some people had Leon Bailey. Low points if he was a part of your team. You understand me? Yeah, so I don't know.
Just a point on Leon, man, to say this. I think Leon has to make better decisions when he's on the field. He got substituted at halftime. And watching the game, he's got to make quicker decisions and better decisions if he wants to remain on the field.
Yeah, I think he's going to get a lot of playing time because, and just to let people know that Shamar Nicholson, let me just move from the Leon Bailey thing. Shamar Nicholson is on the move to the championship in England.
Where's he going? What team?
Understand that he could be headed to Watford.
Good team.
Yeah, and
aspirations.
Ronaldo Cephas came on and scored today, though his team lost first game. He came on, he scored. Paris is also on the move as well.
No, tell the people where Cephas is.
He's in Turkey.
Okay.
He's in Turkey, so he yeah.
And that's the Turkey first division?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Wolmers won the Ali Cup. They defeated Veer in the finals. Mannings lost to Veer 10-11 on penalties, but Mannings were the most disciplined team over the Ali Cup.
So can I comment on that? That's the Mannings I know. You don't win anything. You're disciplined. You don't win anything. Mannings are a well-disciplined team. That's the category you do well in and continue to do well in. It's a good thing.
Yeah, man. All right. So bless up everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful. They say Turkish Super League. That's where he is.
Yeah, that's like the Division One, the Premier League. Yeah.
Yeah.
Equivalent of their Premier League in Turkey.
Paris could be heading to Denmark, or he could also be going to the Championship in England. He has multiple offers to play in Denmark.
Where's Stewart going? Where's Stewart?
Stewart could be going in the city. In the city, yeah.
He's going overseas. He's going overseas.
Yeah. He's going down to. There you go. Down to. Let me put up this. This is where he's going, which I think is big. So he's going. Yeah.
What team do we know?
No, we don't know what team yet.
It doesn't matter what team. It's a team in Syria. Yeah. They're not relegated yet.
Yeah. So that's where he's headed, people. So some good things happening. Yeah.
That's a good thing. Yeah. Championship is good for Nicholson. I think he needs to play competitive football. Hopefully he gets playing time. And if Stewart's got Super League, that's a decent league. They're getting more and more players in Super League,
The three Jamaicans did well for Coventry today. Lottie Bodier did well. Casey Palmer did well. And Jada Silva did well.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's good news. Yeah, man. All right, people. I keep saying bless up and bless up. So this time we are actually out here. Cranky, bless up again. All the best for the weekend. Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. Bless up.
All right, people. You know what it is. Time to go. So we are over and we are OUT out of here. But hit the like button, subscribe, and share before you go. I am Manning's man, and we are over and we are out of here.
Yo, watch about dog. SK New Erdis. The body out there. Sniper King I represent for I Am Sure Sports. You get to me, I say, when you want the latest news and sports and updates and all of that, check out I Am Sure Sports. You know the thing goes in. Remember, cover the whole island. Remember Kingston, Westmoreland, Galchester, Ocho-Race, Galtigo Bay. Everywhere. I Am Sure Sports. Check it out for the latest news and latest updates. Sniper King I represent. Where them feel like, yeah. Someone on for the food from young, from where they knee height. I Am Sure Sports. Yeah, dog.